We'll start. Right, so just for the newbies, if this is your first time, so welcome. This is every Friday at between 2 and 3 o'clock Central European time, always on the same link. So if you can't find the link, just go back to it. Previous week and find it. There's no password. I just let people in a waiting room. Right. If you come on early, then it's the chit chat. So anything kind of goes. It's all about getting to know each other, and we just chat whatever the conversation comes up. And normally the guest comes on early, so we can just sync up and everything's fine. And we start off getting to know the person behind the business. And if you don't have a business, that's no problem either. So it's just to get to know the person. So, and basically why you're on 𝗏𝗏est and how you want to be part of this community, we can help one another and so on. It is done in combination with 𝗏𝗏est. So we are technically on an 𝗏𝗏est platform, although we're using my Zoom link. So if you're not already in 𝗏𝗏est, then you're invited to join. If you are in 𝗏𝗏est, then this is just one of the many kind of programs. So maybe a couple of words from, we always usually have an 𝗏𝗏est representative here as well, just to say a few words. It was always Johan, the founder, at the beginning, but now it's shared around with at least one 𝗏𝗏est representative here. So Victoria is 𝗏𝗏est, as you see from her jumper. 𝗏𝗏est, Victoria, you want to say a few words?
Yes. So welcome everyone. Glad to see new faces and seeing like this featured business grow every week and get more interactive and more exciting. So a little bit about 𝗏𝗏est. So we're all-in-one platform for the entrepreneurship ecosystem. And what we do is we just connect entrepreneurs with their supporters. We bring them together in one place with a lot of useful tools to collaborate and communicate. And what we want to achieve is to make the success rates of entrepreneurs better. And because we believe that entrepreneurship is the future of work and that little businesses and people can really make an impact and change the world for the better. So back to you, James. I'm really excited to hear about her today because I've seen him join all these sessions a lot. So really interesting.
Oh, excellent. Thank you for that. So we're spicing this up a little bit. So we're not just having a guest that's going to talk about them. Prior to that, we're going to have a guest singer. So the guest singer is going to sing a song, kind of just to warm you up, because sometimes people can not participate as we would like them to do. So it's just to get you excited, warmed up in the kind of the community feeling. So, and then we're going to go to the guest and then spend the rest of the time on that. So at the beginning, when we talk about the guest, it's about the person behind the business or about the person. So the first 10 to 15 minutes is about them personally, a bit about their background and how they transitioned into their job or what type of thing they're doing now, any challenges that they're facing. I'll steer the conversation, and then we open it up when I tell you to questions to the audience, or the audience can ask questions. So on mute prior to that, otherwise we're all jumping in asking questions and we never get to the end of knowing about the business, the person, right? So all clear? Okay, great. Okay, so first of all, Emily, and then I'm going to introduce our guest in a minute. So Emily, you're going to kick this off with a song. She is. Can't hear it yet.
Do you want to just tell us sound-wise?
Yeah, just test it. Yeah. Yeah, I can hear that.
Is it okay?
Well, it kind of paused. I don't know. Do it again. Oh yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay then. Right. So over to Emily. Do you want to introduce it at all?
I am going to sing the song "Forget You," originally sung by CeeLo Green, and I'm on the piano and vocals, and Alex is my drummer today.
Oh, excellent. Bravo. Marvelous.
Bravo, bravissimo.
Actually, it came across very good. Yeah, I mean, for sound quality on Zoom, it was really good. So this
just quick advice: you need a second microphone next to you because it's too far.
Okay.
But for next performances.
Yeah, I forgot Boyan is a director, aren't you? Music director.
Yeah. Very expensive one, but I can provide some free advices to all the attendees of this great event.
But excellent. This is your song, or?
No, this is a famous guy, 𝗬𝗘𝗔𝗥 Green. No?
Yeah, he's an American.
Yeah.
All right, excellent.
He's actually an American from Atlanta, I think.
Oh. Pete knows about music, see? Actually, we did the Christmas quiz. I mean, Pete knew them all.
You know, they say Atlanta is actually the kind of the capital of rap and R&B in the United States. So I live amongst all of these artists, although I don't see them, but they're here apparently.
Yeah, and the dog. Right. Okay. So anyway, welcome. Whilst the music was playing, we had another guest join. So, Come. How would you pronounce it?
Come.
Come. Oh, see, I told you.
Welcome, Come.
Terrible.
Hi, Come.
So quickly, wait.
I was also trying to catch up.
Right, no problem. Sorry, where are you from?
From Cameroon, but presently I'm
Oh.
in Milan.
Excellent. So we get quite a mixture of people here. So, right, we don't want to waste any more time, so we want to go to the guest, if he's still here and hasn't fallen asleep. Right, the guest. So, our special guest. Right. So, our guest. Right. So, thank you, Emily. Well, both of you. So, thank you there. Right. And we look forward to you being a regular guest playing music each week. Right. Okay. So, now over to the guest. So we've still got time, so we have to kind of speed this up a bit. Right. So, Mr. 𝗬𝗘𝗔𝗖𝗛. How do you pronounce your name? 𝗘𝗘𝗔𝗥. Okay. When I first met 𝗘𝗘𝗔𝗥, I thought it was 𝗪𝗘𝗔𝗫. Right, but that's a long story. Right.
Yeah.
But we'll come to that as we go through here. So our 33rd guest is 𝗘𝗘𝗔𝗥, all the way from the Netherlands.
A pleasure,
Right.
James.
You're welcome. Right. So, and welcome other Paul. Paul's from South Africa, right? Who's normally a regular on here as well. Right. So, Mr. 𝗬𝗓, in your words, we're just going to find out a little bit about you, a bit of background about you before we go into any kind of business related stuff. So, a bit of background on kind of who is 𝗘𝗘𝗔𝗥. Right. Tell us a bit about that.
Okay, James. Well, I was born in the Netherlands, in Bussum, and raised in what they say here in the Netherlands, 𝗏𝗏𝗏, which is the area where all the television programs are being produced and made. So yeah, I've been living there for many years until I was.
What's the place called?
Hilversum.
Bussum.
Bussum is where I was born, and then I was, I think, 2 or 3. Then we moved to Hilversum.
Yeah.
That's the city where all the TV stations are here.
Okay.
In the Netherlands.
Yeah, it just. I remember passing Bussum a few times. I had to take a picture of it because I said, like, I'm in Bussum now.
Yeah.
But,
well, if you look at The Voice, for example, that's been produced in Hilversum. So that company from this guy.
So that is really the center of TV and everything.
Yeah. So that's the center of it. So yeah, I spend a lot of time in that specific area in the Netherlands, which is called, the area is called Het Gooi, very well known with Dutchmen. I also lived in other countries. My father, he worked for a company called Philips Telecommunications, and he traveled a lot. He was actually never at home. At that time, you didn't have all that media to connect to each other. So it was letters or telegrams, and sometimes by phone. And he was most of the time for weeks, months, sometimes 2 months away. And at some moment, he had a project in Sweden, in Stockholm, where the new Arlanda airport was built at that time. He was responsible for supplying the telecommunications of the air traffic tower. So I lived there when I was 6 for, I think, half a year, something like that, together with my sister and my mother, of course, which was a fantastic time for me, of course. I went to school in Sweden. I didn't understand a word what they were saying and what they were doing at the moment, but it was good. But my sister was very young. I think she was something like 2 or 3 years, and she could speak quite some nice Swedish words. So we couldn't understand her either at some moment. So I lived there for half a year, as I said. Then my father had a very big project in the UK for the British Telecom, and he said, "Okay, I'm not going without my family." So I lived there for some 2 years. Went to school, first to the secondary school, but then after a year, my father said, when hearing the stories that I told him about what happened at school, especially with racism, he said, "Okay, we can't keep you there." So I went to a private school, an international school in London, which was a fantastic time for me. I mean, I met so many celebrities there, the children of them, and they were brought to school with, those big Rollses and all those expensive cars that you could imagine. And I had a good friend there. We had a good time. And in the holidays, I went to museums in London. I had this 𝗘𝗔𝗖𝗪𝗧 ticket, and I visited every museum in London that there is. That's so I love to do that. But before I was allowed to go in the underground, my father had to tell me how it worked, and I said, "Well, listen, I was 16 or 17 years. I know." He said, "No, you can get lost there, so I'll just show you first." So we stayed there for some 2 years. And well, actually, after 1.5 years, there was another project in Rio de Janeiro. But this project in the UK was not finished. So we stayed there instead of going to live in Rio de Janeiro. Otherwise, I would have been able to speak some Portuguese, which I will anyhow, because one of my son-in-laws is from Brazil. He's married with my middle daughter. And so I have to learn some Portuguese, which I'm doing at the moment.
So you're learning Portuguese at the moment?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Well, you should speak with my kids then, because they're fluent.
I know.
And
I know.
Brazilian,
Yeah.
Brazilian Portuguese, which is different from Portuguese.
Yeah. So now, after I came back from the UK, I went to school again in the Netherlands. Met some good friends there, and still friends with them up till this day. And my friend had a girlfriend, and she wanted to move to one of the other cities from 𝗘𝗢𝗪𝗧. So I helped him moving, and that's where I met my wife. And during the moving, we got to know each other. Still married with her. We married in 1985. That's a long time ago for some people, I can guess.
So how did you meet her then? Was she the girl next door?
Yeah, well, there were 4 girls who lived in that house, and so they had all a separate room, but they all had one kitchen and one bathroom. So they shared the house.
So you didn't really help him, you were ogling the girl?
Both. Both. I did help.
So how did you
move?
Yeah. So how did you manage on that time that you were moving? You managed to get a date with her or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
After some time. Yeah.
Okay.
I did.
Move fast.
Yeah. That's right. If you see the opportunity, take it.
Did you learn that skill from being in England?
No, it's just a natural skill, James.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
just a natural skill.
But it obviously worked because you've been together ever since.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, then
So that's the tip. Actually, help your friend move, and then you might meet your partner.
absolutely. Yeah, that's a very good tip.
Okay.
That's a very good tip. So.
Actually, sorry to digress. So I thought you met her at a dance, right?
No.
And you said, "Don't stand on my toes." Okay.
Yeah.
Probably lost the joke there somewhere.
No, it's a good joke. James, I understand it. And a lot of people are laughing, so that's okay.
Okay.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing. I did. I'm not a dancer, so we stopped dance lessons to stop the fighting. Let me put it like that. So we said we're not going to dance lessons anymore. This doesn't work. So we stopped with that. So it's true what you're saying. So and yeah, during our marriage, we have 3 daughters and 1 grandchild at the moment, which is already more than 1 year old. And yeah, the daughters they moved out of the house. At the moment, I live in Amersfoort in the Netherlands. We sold our house because the kids are out of the house. So we said we had a very big house. So well, just with the 2 of us with that big house makes no sense. So we sold it last year. We bought a new house, a smaller house, somewhere in the middle of the Netherlands, and it's being built at the moment. It's a new house, and we rented this house where I am at the moment. Yeah, during the years when we bought houses, they were all new houses. We couldn't find any house that was not new. We had some specific requirements for that. And in 2012, we lived in that house for 28 years in Soest, the former house. And in 2012, we did a rebuild, a very big rebuild. So we extended the living room and we pulled everything apart. So new floor, new whatever, electricity. And then the builder went broke. So they just finished the extension of the living room. The builder went broke. So I said, okay, then I'm going to do it myself. So I hired guys to do the plumbing and the electricity. And that worked fine. But that was not... It was a very difficult time at that moment.
So now with the new house, how are you doing it? You checked out that the company wouldn't go broke. So
well, you can't check that. I mean, any company can go broke now, but you have an insurance for that.
Okay, so when's it going to be complete?
I think somewhere September, October this year.
All right. So has the roof on yet or not?
No, not yet. Just first floor walls.
All right. Okay.
So
you're in like rented accommodation at the moment. So for moving, just going back on something that you said earlier. You said when you lived in the UK, I don't know where you were before you moved to London, but you said something about like kind of bullying and stuff. So where were you living then?
I lived in Harrow.
Harrow. Oh, yeah, so it was kind of the outskirts of London.
Yeah, it's the northwest of London. Very nice area to live. I mean, I went back there a couple of years ago to see what the houses were like. And then you also have a good idea. I mean, as a child, at that time, 16, 17 years, you have another view on things than when you're older. Mm-hmm. And it was very obvious to find out that when I went there with my wife, I said, oh, well, was this the house where we lived? That's fantastic. It was really great. We had a huge garden, and it was a fantastic time. Except for the bullying. I was not bullied, but my friends, they were from Pakistan, and they were bullied every time we went back to house. So I told those stories to my father, and he said, okay, we're taking you away from that school. I was on the secondary school, so yeah, that didn't work. I mean, the headmaster still had a cane, so if I was on a boys' school, of course. When the boys were not doing we're not okay. Let me put it like that. They were caned, and that's something I would never forget. I was never caned, but he wasn't allowed to do that. Otherwise, he would have a problem with the Dutch government, I guess.
But I know what it's like, because I was living in the northeast of England around that time, and it was still corporal punishment at school. So you would you had to pick the cane you wanted to be hit with. Yeah, right. But there was bullying and all sorts going on, and it was just kind of more accepted than it is now. Actually, Emily says that she grew up in Harrow as well. So, okay. But there's a few people here that are actually in London. I mean, Walter's in London, Eva is in London, so a few people in London here. But so anyway, I was just curious about that. So kind of fast forward now back to where you are. So you also you have a number of hobbies that you're interested in.
Yeah, that's right. I love traveling, and that's something that's in my DNA and also in my kids' DNA. The lucky thing is, it is also in the DNA of my wife. So
do you think that? Sorry to interrupt. Do you think that started because you were traveling as a kid with your father and the family, that you kind of got that feel for wanting to explore different countries? Yeah,
it's a good question. Actually, when my father went, I mean, he traveled the world. I mean, he flew from Argentina to the US and then to South Africa, and then if we were lucky, we could go on a summer holiday. I mean, traveling by plane and those distances were for him as for me going on the bus trip between two Dutch cities. So every time when he went, I looked at the map and just to see how far it is and how far it was flying. And yeah, I said to myself, I'm going to do that also. It's fantastic to find out different colors and meet all kinds of people, especially the different, I said colors, I mean cultures. And I love to do that. So I also try to combine it with my work. But on my hobbies, I love traveling. I love cooking. It's one of my hobbies. Watching families watching movies with the family, reading. I love to do that.
So I see. I mean, we caught up earlier, and you said that some of the sports that you like is skiing.
Yep.
In the Netherlands.
Yes, skiing in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
We do. If you want to learn skiing, you have to do that in the Netherlands on a dry.
You mean artificial?
Artificial track. Then you really learn to ski, because when my kids were little, the first time we went skiing with them, they had a lesson in Austria, and that was horrible. So I said, we're not going to do that anymore. So we had them learn skiing on an artificial track, and they are good skiers.
This is the one in Den Haag, is it?
No, you've got many. There's so many.
There's a lot.
Also,
okay.
Also, where we lived in Soest, which is very nearby here, they had an artificial track. Okay,
so a passion of yours, or something that you wanted to do as a kid, was to be a helicopter pilot.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that has also to do with flying and traveling, of course. But I was too tall for at that time, so it was not possible.
So how tall are you?
I'm over 2 meters.
Because I remember when we met, I've even got a photo somewhere about that, and there was you, me, and Alain de Vries, right? So Alain de Vries is from Asia, and he's short, very short. Then I'm kind of the middle one, and then there's you. So it's like, it reminded me of a sketch from I don't know where it's from, some TV show, and they said that I look up to you, and then he's looking up to me, and I say I look up to you, and then I'm looking up to you, and then you said I look down to both of you, and it was kind of. But anyway, we digress. So this is where I wanted to say that Boyan also wanted to be a pilot, a rocket pilot. You wanted to be a spaceman, didn't you?
Okay.
Didn't you? He went to Cape. He went to Cape Canaveral. Yeah.
I'm getting in touch with this Mr. Musk. He's having plans like mine. So.
Right. So I want to bring you together because I mean, he always had this desire to be a pilot, and he went to Cape Canaveral, and he was telling us about his story. So you couldn't be a pilot because you were too tall.
Yeah.
Really?
That's right. Yeah.
You couldn't fit in the helicopter.
I think so. I mean, they had some requirements for that.
Yeah.
It's silly, of course. I mean, I flew in a helicopter, so there's no problem. But they said, okay, no. But that was at that time, you know. They had some stupid requirements.
Right.
But you were saying about Cape Canaveral and traveling. I mean, I was 19 years old.
Yeah.
And, I thought, okay, I'm going on holiday on my own. And I was looking at the Canary Islands, but they had no place there. So I said, okay, let's go to the US. So I went to the US, to Florida, and I visited Cape Canaveral there. And at that time, you could also get on the platform itself. Not too near, but so near to the platform, you can't go there nowadays anymore. And that's fantastic. 19 years old, driving an American car there.
So what year was that? Was it the same year as Boyan? Because maybe you were standing beside each other, right? And you didn't realize.
Yeah, I was 2003 in Cape Canaveral.
This was something in 1979, something like that, 1980.
Wouldn't it be just coincidental if you were both on this show and you're both at the same place at the same time?
Yeah. Will be very,
But anyway, so you didn't become a helicopter pilot. So
no, but I did go back to Cape Canaveral. I think 5 or 6 times. I went there myself. I went there with my family. I went there with customers also. But I will tell that later on. We did some trips there.
But you did have a flair or a fly for traveling. Because I mean, it was in the blood, and then also in your career, in work, you travelled extensively.
Yeah.
And basically, maybe we'll just transition to that in the essence of time. So we actually met because I used to live in the Netherlands. So I moved from. It's quite ironic because you said your dad worked for BT or BT with this customer or something. Yeah. I came from BT in the UK. Yeah. Living in London, and then I went in 2000, I think, to the Netherlands.
And then we met at CMD, Wireless Data Solutions.
Yeah, exactly. So we met at a telecoms consultancy company, and
it's a nice story to tell because I've been working for a company called ICL Fujitsu, and I was one of the sales consultants and account managers later on in the healthcare department. So we built and we sold hospital information systems. I did it for 10 years. And when the company was bought by McKesson, a very big US company, pharmacy company, I said, I'm going to do something different. And then I saw this advertisement of CMD Wireless Data Solutions, and they were looking for an international account manager. And I thought, well, this is my momentum to go international. Because before that, I always had some good excuse for my manager to go traveling. I mean, I've tried to sell hospital information systems in the Philippines, in Hong Kong, and those kind of countries. And then I saw that, and I said, well, this is fantastic. So, well, as you probably also know, James, the interview with CMD Wireless Data Solutions all take place on one day. You have a conversation with the director, and then with an employee, Then if he says, okay, he's an okay guy or girl, then you have a conversation with your new manager. And if that manager says, okay, I think you are more capable to work in another department, you go to another manager. And then the fifth conversation is then with the director again, and you get your contract or not. So that's how it works with CMD Wireless Data Solution. Do it all in one day. That's very efficient, and you really get to know the people, who they are and what they can do. And that's why I met you.
Exactly. I think there's a lot to learn from that process, because they flew me over from the UK, and all in one day. I think it was a 5-hour kind of interview process. I mean, not back to back, but there's kind of breaks and things, but they made you feel very welcome, and then you just had that confidence that, I like this company and the people, and then by the end of it, you knew you had the job, so you'd fly home knowing that you had the job. So it was great. So that you then did extensive traveling there, because we were fortunate if we were in the same team.
Yeah.
And I mean, you traveled a lot more than me. I mean, you're never on a plane, off a plane. I mean, you were every week you were traveling somewhere.
Every week.
Every week for
800 flights per year, something like that.
Sorry, how many?
100 flights per year.
Yeah, at least. So, but also not just locally. I mean, really internationally. You went to like Australia and all sorts of places.
That was for a big project. Actually, what CMD Wireless Data Solutions was doing is they were building and selling SMSCs. So those were the systems that processed the SMSs. And at that time, an SMS cost something like 25 cents. And a 10 million euro system would be earned back by Telefonica, for example, in 3 months' time, because at that time SMS was the thing. I was responsible for a couple of accounts, and one of them was a UK account called Hutchison. And I knew a lot of consultants who were working within Hutchison, and they were a greenfield operator, and they started in 7 countries. This company was a Hong Kong company, a building company, and they bought for 7 countries 3G licenses, and they wanted to build a telco company. So any one of you know maybe the company called 𝗬𝗢? That's the telco company which still exists in the UK and in Austria. And they wanted a system like the sun. So they wanted to have that media, but then digitally. That was their idea. We only had the SMSC. And I said to one of my other colleagues, would you like to do this together? He was also an account manager. And he said, yeah. And I asked many others, and they said, no, let us just sell the SMSCs. That's easy. And this is very difficult. And we don't want to stick out our neck. I said, okay, fine. Then I'll do the opportunity together with him and another guy, Sirius, you also know, James. So the 3 of us, to make a long story short, the first offer we made was 5 billion euros at that time. But that was because of the traffic that this company thought was happening with SMS and voicemail. We said, no. But it took us a year to do this project, to pull this project in. And the first order for this project was 100 million euros. And this was a big savior for the company, because at that time telco went this because of the expensiveness of all those 3G licenses. And when I pulled in that deal, the management of the company said, okay, to me, it's good that you will set up a team. And James was one of the members of the team. And I had people in Australia, in New Zealand, in Italy, in Sweden, in the UK. So I had a physical team in the Netherlands, but also a virtual team worldwide. And as James just explained, we had to travel to all those countries to pull in this deal. So I went to Australia, I went to New Zealand in just 24 hours, just back and forth, do a presentation and back again. We did negotiations in Italy until 4 o'clock in the night, and then we jumped on the plane slept in the toilet because we fell asleep there. And then we had to continue negotiations with the English guys, and that's how it went for a whole year.
So this was the biggest deal that the company had ever done. So so you were kind of the ringleader, or whatever the word is. I mean, you were the main man. You had brought everything together, and so I mean, you were on a pedestal. I mean, I think that's still legendary. But those were kind of the good old days, and I'm just concerned about time now because we want to open it up to the audience as well. Right. So from that, I mean, for me as well, I mean, they were the best days. I loved the travel. I loved the freedom. I loved the company. I loved the ethics of it all. And colleagues, when you got to know a good colleague, they're a friend for life.
Multicultural. There were so many nationalities in the company. It was fantastic. So that was great. But then since then, I mean, things didn't work out. I mean, in the telecoms industry, you kind of you have the cash cow of things, and then it kind of nosedives, and then things change, and everyone is off looking for another job. So we all kind of split up and went different directions. I went to work for a US company for 5 or 6 years, and we sold voicemail, video mail, conferencing systems. That was also worldwide with the telco operators. That was also a fantastic time. So
since then, you've done tons of different jobs for international companies, and our paths have crossed a few times, but we've stayed in touch and everything else. And out of all the companies I work for, these are the people that I stay in touch with. Were the ones from this team, because they're a great bunch of people. But anyway, so let's just kind of move it forward a little bit. So now, what is the current situation?
At the moment, I'm helping startups in their sales challenge. That's what I'm doing at the moment. And to be very honest, it's a very difficult time. I'm working for a German company in the Internet of Things area. And if there's one thing that companies are not interested in, is Internet of Things. They have totally different ideas on what their problems are and how they are going to be solved. So this is not a good time. Business is not the way going as I expected. I mean, last year I had an event in Barcelona, Smart City. I had some 70 leads, 0 at the moment. I had an event in January last year, also 0. So I have to do everything online now. Not easy. So yeah, I'm looking for a job now. So I'm open for new opportunities. I have
So it's really quite ironic, because when I first put because I come from an engineering background, when I first went to the Netherlands and I was kind of transitioning to more of a sales kind of role, I knew nothing really about sales, and 𝗘𝗔𝗖𝗛 was kind of a mentor to me, although we didn't call them mentors at the time. He's just the senior sales guy. But I learned a lot. So, I mean, over these many, many years and all that experience, you've got a ton of knowledge, a ton of experience, but you find yourself now in a position that you're actively looking for a job, which is not uncommon. There's a lot of people in a similar position. So I want to open up the floor now to the audience to either ask a question or if you want to ask them a question.
Well, I have a couple of questions actually, and I just want to do a kind of quiz. If you just raise your hand if you think that's. Let me ask this. So if you are a company and a prospect calls you, would you send him an offer he's asking for, or would you ask him for his budget? So if you think that you should send him an offer which he's asking for, raise one hand, and if you think you should ask for his budget, raise 2 hands. I'm curious to see. I see Bojan one hand and Eva one hand. So it's always important to ask for his budget. I mean, you can send an offer, but you don't know what his budget is. I mean, I had this conversation with a furniture builder, and he said, I have it. It's so busy with all these offers. I said, and are you transferring them into orders? He said, no. He said, just ask them for a budget then, and then you can focus your offer on that. So that was my question to you. Also looking at the time, James.
Yeah. So I think
Yes, I have 3 questions for you.
Well, one second, Walter. 1 second.
Yeah,
if I can just get Moira to ask, because she's got to go in a few minutes. She's got another call, and she raised her hand earlier, so I don't want her to drop off and not ask the question. So.
Thank you very much, James. Sorry, Walter. I'll be very quick. Actually, I just wanted to say to Gert that you're always free to send your CV. I'm an international recruiter, and we can always have a little call afterwards. Maybe we can help each other, maybe not, but we can try.
Okay.
Right. Just wanted to pop that in quickly before I have to leave.
Yeah, and especially in the tech space.
Thank you.
And especially in the tech industry, so that makes it even better.
I'm gonna leave you my email in the chat, all right?
Yeah, okay, good.
Thank you.
If not, I'll connect you anyway.
Yeah, well, James will do
that.
that.
But that's it. Guys, sorry. Walter, please go ahead.
Thank you, Maura.
Yeah, so sorry, yeah, I cannot offer you a job straight away. I have a couple of remarks, but for your question, for your quiz, I must say that probably I'm from a different background, but if somebody asks me for my budget, I get very, very suspicious. I cannot explain why, but so first I want to know what the person has to offer. Mm-hmm. And probably a third option, you said I give you 2 options, and personally I always like at least 3 choices. And for me, a third choice would be to understand what do they really want, what do they really need. Yeah?
Well, my experience, Walter, is that if you give a customer choices about a product or a solution he doesn't know because you're an expert in that solution, then he can't make a choice. So you always have to, and this is of course customer specific, but most of the customers, they want to be helped, they want to be not bothered with making choices. So you help them make the choice. And it's very important, of course, that you make the right choice for a customer, of course, because I mean, I've had successes, but I've also had failures. And the failures were always that I've been asking a too high a price, not asking the customer what his budget was. And I lost those deals, not for me to earn a lot of commission, but for the company to earn a lot of money. So I have learned that you have to ask what the customer's budget is. I mean, if I want to buy a kitchen, this kitchen supplier will also say, okay, what is your budget? Is it 100,000 euros or is it 10,000 euros? Because then I can adapt my ideas for what your requirements are.
That's why it's important. I agree. So I put also my both hands up. But it's how you present the question of the budget. You can also, I can give you this amount of range, or just quickly say this and this and this I can give, but I need more information too.
Exactly, Alvin. You need to find the momentum to ask the question. It's not when you're sitting down and ask, okay, so what's your budget before we start the conversation? That doesn't work, of course. You have to find the right momentum for that.
I guess if you use analogies like, say you're the sales guy in a car showroom, and you had the kind of the sports cars, the deluxe models, and you kind of had the basic, and then someone's standing there looking at the sports car. You don't just assume that they have the money to buy that car. Maybe they just like that car. That's exactly what happened to me. And the guy said, it's a great 2-seater and the horsepower and it's a Babe magnet and everything. But he never asked me why I was there in the first place. And then I actually was looking at the multi-van combi, because I had a family of 3 kids and a wife already. I didn't need the sports, although the sports car would have been nice. So it was not so much about the budget, and then it was selling me the value, and then then if I agreed to that value, then the budget, all right, I would either come up with the money if that was really something for me. So things can be seen as a perceived value. If you said that's €100, and I'll think, shit, that's a lot of money, or I might think, oh, that's peanuts. So it's a perception. But anyway, over to you. Carry on. Keep asking questions.
Walter, you had 3 questions.
Oh yes, there's the second one. Sorry, I'm just on my way out because I have to get ready for a call at 2 o'clock my time. But my second question was slightly less businesslike. I mentioned when you had to do 100 flights a year at a height of more than 2 meters, it mustn't have been very comfortable for you.
Oh yes. I could always pick my own seat. I didn't. Well, in the beginning, we flew always business class. We had 2,500 employees. They all flew business class. But when the telecom went down,
when the no staff happened, that all was finished. And I mean, I'm only 191. So, but I really feel the pain. Still remembering my
with
flights to Tokyo.
With KLM, I have a lifetime platinum elite status, so I can always choose my own.
That's nice. It's nice to have
it was always funny watching the 3 of us travel. I mentioned kind of the short guide, and there was me, and then people must have thought this is a comedy sketch.
Yeah.
And then you're in business class and we are in economy, right? And then, but then later you had to squeeze yourself into economy as well. So your knees round your chin, and then we've got more space.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, those were the funny days.
And also, Walter, if you do a job like this with a lot of international flying, you really have to love it.
Absolutely.
If you hate flying and traveling, you won't make it. I mean,
true. That's right. Yeah.
Forget it.
Right. So people are dropping off because they have other calls that start on the hour. So I don't want to keep people all the time and just everyone disappear and we finish. So, right. So you mentioned where you are now. So Mara has actually said that you can reach out to her. So that's a great thing. Yeah. So is there anything maybe, I mean, for us as well, because we are a community of people that helping each other, and that's the whole idea of these calls as well, that you can reach out, and even if it's just advice, then people can offer it. So yeah, this is what we want. So I mean, other people, can they resonate with that story? I know Eva, you mentioned something similar with you and your predicament.
Well, I wanted to thank Gert for sharing your story. And what I wanted to ask you was if you have an idea of where you want to be, what do you want to do ideally? What is it that you're looking for? Of course, you have a wide range of experience and knowledge, so you have a lot to offer. But I'm quite interested in whether if you see yourself growing any further, or is it that you want to share what you have learned, or a combination of both? I'm very curious to know about that.
Yeah, well, Eva, I really want to share what I've learned, if there is the possibility. Sorry for that. But there's also reality. So that's why I'm going to look for a job at the moment. But I would like to write a book or set up a training. But that's not possible for the moment, knowing what the costs are that we have. So you have to look at that very realistically, or take the risk. I mean, that's also entrepreneurial. You can also take the risk to do that. I've chosen not to do that, knowing what the market is at the moment. I think if we didn't have Corona, then my commercial life would have been totally different. Absolutely, I believe that. But yeah, shit happens, and you have to get out of it, which I will. I mean, I'm very positive about finding a new position, and I love to do sales. It's in my DNA, so I will continue doing that.
I think that you do enjoy that. I can see that. And my sales experience, I can say that my approach always has been to try to make the customer comfortable with me to begin with.
Yeah.
We are together there because we have something in common, either the material stuff that we're selling, whatever it is, or a service. So it's not that we are totally strangers, we have that in common. And taking it from there, I always like to ask questions that are inviting for them, but at the same time allows me to find out what is it that they are looking for, because there's a lot of psychology in it, from what I heard from you as well. So it's all about the customer, but you just don't want to make a sales. You want them to buy, to be happy, and to be able to come back and repeat the experience and spread the good news. So I think it's an art in its own. So I do admire that. Very much so.
Yeah, it's true. It's you have this. I don't know whether you've heard about neuro-linguistic programming. That's a way of getting to know yourself at first, how you communicate and how you can communicate with others. And I think every salesperson should follow such a training to get to know what the psychology is behind the human being and why he's doing or she is doing what he or she is doing, and try to find out what's the agenda of that person, to understand that person.
Because once you know what they want, you're able to lead on and then get into the money side of it. So
exactly,
it's really a dance.
In the sales it can be, and this is always my position. Was always my position that if I get to know a prospect who wants to be a customer, it can be a customer next week. It can be a customer also in 2 years. So it might not be always that in the meetings that you have, you immediately can sell something. But it's important to stay in contact. Keep them informed about the progress of your solution, and then get in contact with them again. I mean, I have customers I know for 25 years. They are friends.
You're going to do great. I'm sure about that.
Thank you.
Bojan, did you have a question?
Yes.
I think he did.
My question is, since you asked a question about sales, what is your experience and how do you feel about using CRM systems for customer relationships and for?
Well, actually twofold. It's good for the company to see what the pipeline is and what you're doing, what kind of customers there are. But I also see it for myself. I can see progress in what I'm doing, how far am I. I have all the information of the customer. I can look back and see what I've discussed with them at that time. So I use it always.
Because why I'm asking this, because I'm also in sales, even giving the wrong answer according to your criteria. So from practically almost all my career was kind of linked to sales hunting and such things. In the past several years, I have experience with a lot of CRM solutions to sell to potential customers. This is what I asked, and I have a new venture, but it's will not be focus of this meeting. So I started selling Norwegian software in the Southeast Europe. And the challenge is cost, the challenge is this distance, and but it's the beauty is that it's area that you just entered. Now you're the first from the...
So Bojan, you have a CRM system?
Yes, I have CRM system. I have experience with a lot of CRM systems.
So you have your own one because you're a software developer?
No, I actually several times I was thinking with my colleagues to build something, but so far we are using the products that are developed by somebody else. So it's a lot of efforts to create something that is...
Okay, so unfortunately we have run out of time, and people are going to drop off, and we'll end up just like two of us talking in the end. So I don't want to end it like that. So there's probably lots of conversations. We can have side conversations and people catch up with each other. So I mean, it'd be nice to know, I mean, people sync up and start learning more about what Boyan's doing as well, and how we can help one another, because the whole thing is about, if we can help one another, then we're serving a greater purpose as well. And I don't have all the answers. I just want to try and bring people together that maybe have an answer or something that they can support one another with. So and we haven't really got to know all the people on this call either. And Ковми, it'd be nice to know you as well, and Laura, more about you, and so on. So, Mr. Tos, have you got anything that you can kind of leave us with, a thought or something that you need, or something that we can do to help, or something to kind of close this out?
Yeah, well, my question was, what would you do in my position? Of course, that's one of the questions, and that's, I think, most of the part that has been answered, I guess. So yeah, I was wondering. So what would you do in my position?
I mean, I personally think that, just quickly, you have a font of knowledge. You've got all of this sales experience. You've traveled, you've been international, you're culturally aware. I mean, and what you could do for kind of startups that are learning kind of that journey, and also with the NLP on that as well, because it's not just about selling anymore. It's about the mindset and everything else that goes with it. That you have a gift that you can share with others. It's how to package that up and deliver it is the hard bit.
Yeah,
and maybe there's people here that could help with that.
Maybe I can say also something in this.
Go on.
On your place, I would revive my connections. So people know you also, they know you from different angles, maybe from the stuff that you don't, but now so this is what I would do on your place, to reconnect with all folks to see if they can give you a hand and maybe to multiply that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your advice.
Paul, maybe you come about it. I mean, if you just said I'm an NLP coach or something, so what? There's thousands of them. If you said you're just a sales guy, so what? But if you bring them together and say that it's something more magical, and then kind of package it in a different way that actually resonates. I mean, it's about sales, but leveraging on the art of NLP or something, rather than just say I'm an NLP coach, because then I don't really care. But if I know it's to do with... Paul, you have a question? You're on mute. You're on mute. You're still on mute.
Yeah, no. Okay, hi, 𝗏. Do you have any website link or something for whatever you do or something? Do you have any web link or something?
LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn. You are on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'll add you up there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, I actually will share... Yeah, just to close out, I mean, for anything that people want to get in touch with you, is the best way is via LinkedIn or something?
Yeah, correct.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll provide your LinkedIn link within the notes. I'll copy these notes across, but I'll share them with you anyway.
Yeah,
and
okay.
I'll put them in the event. And yeah, we're just going to kind of wrap up now. So thanks also for the newbies that are on here. So Laura, thanks for joining. And Kovmi as well. Hope to see you again next week. Next week is a different guest. It's actually someone talking about sustainability. She's local from Geneva, and it is about how you can take your things that you've got and rather than just dump them, but how to make the sustainable business. Right. So that'd be very interesting. And she's a startup. She's a startup actually. So maybe something that you could get involved in her and what she's doing. So anyway, I thank you.
Thanks, James.
𝗏𝗔𝗖𝗏 has been a wonderful, fantastic guest again, our 33rd guest. And everybody, thanks again for coming on every week. Then I'll send you the recording of this a bit later. And so I wish you all a wonderful weekend and see you again this time next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Nice meeting you all. Bye.
Likewise.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.